In the 90s, graffiti was a huge problem.
Graffiti is graffiti?
Graffiti.
Graffiti artists kept their distance from I-95 after Crook's arrest.
It's everywhere, at the shopping center, the post office, even on the expressway signs. Kendall is being overrun by graffiti. The writing is on the wall, and residents don't like what they see.
My name is Comic28. I am a graffiti artist out of Miami, Florida. I've been doing graffiti on and off since about 1995, 96.
Cats from Damn Crew. Been painting since 1986. I joined Damn Crew in 1989.
My tag name is Drip. Graffiti artist since the age of 15.
My tag is GWiz1. I've been painting since 1993.
My go by Chase. I've been doing graffiti since early 90s.
As a clinical psychologist, I've spent a lot of time studying, motivation for human behavior. Adolescents and for kids particularly, when they're deviating onto a path that might lead them to, vandalism or graffiti, this is something that clinical psychologists such as myself tend to get involved in because it wouldn't be typically what we would call a normal behavior. And so clinical psychologists are really interested in the types of influences and factors that might contribute to why they're doing things that most people their age aren't doing.
My interest in painting began long ago. I don't even know if it was had to do much with painting. I feel like I've always been an expressive child. I've always been music oriented or art oriented, and that just meant, whether it was building things or creating things. So probably about the age of 13, 14, I started noticing tags and scribes and graffitis and things around my neighborhood and around the places that I grew up in. Kind of caught my eye. I met some guys that were like, that's my boy. I'll die for my boy. That's my homie. I will rep for my homie. And we all kind of linked up in this sort of unit of camaraderie. And I think a lot of us who did team sports or anything like that, we all sought out this camaraderie, this brother love kind of feel. And that's kind of what I found in graffiti when I first, got introduced to it.
We all start as a toy. That means, you're really not good. In 1985, 86, I was a little 12-year-old snot-nosed. My crew members now and my brother as well, they were all into graffiti. And they obviously all drew. So, of course, them drawing, I was like, hey, I want to be part of that. You know what I mean? So that kind of got me inspired.
I picked up my first spray can when I was the age of 13. I painted my first go-kart I ever got. Pretty much it was all over after that. Watching my father draw all the time. And then just picked up the skill and sketching in notebooks all the time. I remember driving on the street with my father in the cars and just looking out the window and just seeing the vibrant colors and just the different styles and the sharp edges, and everybody just had their different style. And I figured, it was a place in life that you could almost express yourself super freely.
In late 80s, when breakdancing and, hip-hop culture started flourishing, my older brother, he was, b-boy, he wanted to, do graffiti, and I kind of was always following him around like an older brother, and since I had a little bit of artistic talent, I guess, I started doing graffiti. When I first started just going out and painting on the street, we had Hurricane Andrew in 1992, so that obviously generated a lot of abandoned buildings and derelict structures to paint on.
Homestead Air Force right now is nothing but a runway.
That's it.
That's it.
I think I've always liked to paint ever since I was young. I always had a thing for drawing and just making a mess of things. Kind of started when I was in elementary school. And I used to just kind of tag up everything and just doodle. And I had a couple of friends that used to do graffiti. But I didn't touch it again until maybe middle school, high school. When I started, early on, it was just seeing started high school. Just because the people that I hung around, it was just like they were into it, and we had more of a tight unit, and just talking about it from the bus ride to getting to school, to sketching in school, to seeing them in dance, like, that definitely had a big influence on me as far as like wanting to get better and just excel in it and just continue to pursue it.
The stick-together families are happier by far than the brothers and the sisters who take separate highways are. The gladdest people living are the wholesome folks who make a circle at the fireside that no power but death can break. Other things may change us, but we start and end with family.
I came from a broken home, but my home wasn't broken. It was just dysfunctional like everybody else's family was in the 90s. And mine wasn't any better or worse than anybody's. By the time my mother figured out what was going on between my other dad pastime hobbies and hanging out with the people I was hanging out with, the element that I was hanging out with, and the things that I was doing, I'm pretty sure she wasn't excited about it.
My family, they were supportive of my graffiti, thing I had going on or had going on. But it was, I guess, my artistic ability or just, family just showing support. So, family don't rat family out.
When I started tagging my family, I didn't tell them for a long time. And, they had already gone through it with my older brother.
I don't think they care too much about it. They just like to see me paint and, be at home and always drawing and be focused into something. Like I wasn't out in the streets.
My parents were not, they really don't know, you know what I mean? They were kind of like, what is this? I don't want you going to jail, I don't want you to get in trouble if things are illegal, etc. Like any parents are concerned. Now, that being said, my parents knew I was artistic and my brother, so they were like, look, as long as you don't get in trouble, you don't go to jail, you don't do anything, I don't have a problem with what you do,
She saw my drive and my passion ignited again, even though it was kind of geared towards negativity. I'm not going to bullshit you, but she was always excited to see me do it.
My family's always told me to try to find something different that included art, and I have in many ways, different aspects, but I still get drawn into the graffiti scene. For the most part, it was me and a sketchbook and pencils and, listening to music at the time. So I don't think they had much of a problem. They kind of like that.
Phone calls from the school, getting caught like tagging signs.
We were out painting at night doing all sorts of things that they probably wouldn't be happy with, but I wouldn't tell them that, you know what I mean? I would just go out and paint, And, we were lucky that, we didn't get caught. Because if you did, then it becomes a problem, you know what I'm saying? Our parents were like wondering, why are we going out around 11, 12 o'clock? And we just said, no, we're actually going to go to 7-Eleven. Because they're open 24 hours. And they bought it.
I stepped away, had a daughter, in a young age. So I didn't want to take the risk while she was being brought up. And inside I felt like something was missing. But at the same time, it was for a good reason. So came right back to it, I think a lot of close people for me for that, and especially my wife. She's the one that came up to me one day and said, you got to do what you want to do in life and stuff that you love to do. And spray painting is one of those things.
When I met my wife and, we were dating and so on, she is reluctant to mention the fact that she used to take me bombing and certain things like that. But she was my ride or die for a little bit. Then we had kids. Life changed. I readjusted my life. My old man passed away. Things readjusted again and shifted again. Which kind of fueled my rebirth into graffiti. And, at that point I got real heavy in the game. And my wife started seeing the benefits of doing graffiti at this age.
They were very supportive. They knew, that I loved to paint, that it was my passion. My parents were always cool with it. They never gave me a hard time as long as I wasn't, like I said, getting in trouble or anything like that, which I never really did. I ain't gonna lie, I did my fair share of illegal pieces. Knock on wood, I never got in trouble. I never got caught, which is a good thing, you know what I'm saying?
They saw what it grew into and what it became, and they understand now, my mother, she understands that, oh, well, this is what he does, this is what he loves, That's pretty much it.
So for some of these adolescents, it's that their home life might be unstable or a bit volatile. For some of them, it might be like this stress that's associated with poverty as a source of anxiety, right? And as a result, what these teenagers report is it helps them take their mind off of things that they're dealing with at home, right? They mention it kind of clears their head, taking their mind off their stress, and they see it as art. Other taggers have mentioned things like, it gets them distracted from the problems they might be having at home and school, and then they use tagging as a way of, coping with things that they're dealing with. So street taggers claim a lot of times that their actions are only committed in response to demands of friends or the groups to which they belong. Specifically in this case, if they can identify as a member of a tagging crew, what happens then is there's this sort of diffusion of responsibility, right? They're just a piece in this larger puzzle. And in some tagging crews, there's pressure, absolutely, from these peers to continue tagging, even when an individual member might express a desire to quit. So definitely membership in these tagging crews can kind of engender this sense of obligation to its members, and then they continue tagging because of loyalty to their peers.
You can't really separate gangs from crews, because that's what crews were. It was basically like a group of guys. I mean, you ask anybody, what is a group of guys going out at night with a bunch of spray paint cans to deface a bunch of property? That's a gang to a lot of people.
Back in those times, the crews and the gangs were kind of intertwined with each other.
Unfortunately, yeah, that's the reality. That's what it is. It's a gang.
All the crews I represent mean the world to me. One of the crews I represent is TSC, Taking South Cities, or the Skilled Crew. All kinds of meanings come from that. But this is some of the, in my eyes, best creative graffiti artists that came out in the mid-90s. Some young kids, heavy hitters, and they still put out work today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a crew right now, a damn crew, and it's basically a bunch of old guys that sit around and talk shit about how graffiti used to be so cool. Oh, it was great doing this, great doing that. But I'm joking. It's like crews to me. It's a group of people that you guys help each other out. You guys paint together.
When it comes to graffiti, your crew is your graffiti writers that you belong to the same crew, the same name, or whatever your crew name was. For example, mine was Ghetto Clowns, GC. There was a few of us, and those were considered my closest people, even though I had friends that were in other crews, which I was cool with. The GC crew was my people, people that I trusted, that I hung out with, that I painted with, that I try to take care of, that I wanted us to become the best crew in Miami. And so yeah, it's more like my close family.
My crew is fam. It's like a second family. We're really good friends. We get along. All drama to the side. It's all about just having a good time. Getting along with each other and just living life the way we know it.
I also represent 28, which is a vandalism crew, where we just spray, and that's all I'm going to talk about on that one. But also MSG crew, which is more the art side, where we actually put in some work as far as murals, and a couple of the homies in the crew do really well. One of my buddies opened a company called Pushy Gigs, where it's kind of our home space where they print t-shirts and do a lot of mock-ups for walls and murals and things like that through Linwood, and they're pushing some boundaries on Paycheck Champ. I've never seen that kind of work for some straight art, you know?
The people in DC were like Arm, Post, Cease, Verse. These were all people that like were really close when we were in high school. You know, everybody comes out once in a while, but like none of us are really like actively being a big artist at this point.
My crew means everything. Those are my brothers. Just like the Army or the football team that you played on in high school. Yeah, just a tight, close-knit group of people. You know, at the end of the day, they're all good people, and I got your back to all stand-up fools.
What do they call you? Our names identify us. Last names connect families. Names can mean leaving a legacy. Names can give us a sense of belonging. They give you your particular style. So whether you've changed your name or kept the one from birth, you're always just you. And your name was who you were first.
The tag name is, you know, an alias name that you go by. Like, I wouldn't go by my government and be putting it up on the streets. So it's a tag name that you get and that you like or that represents you, and that's maybe something that describes you. You know? Like we all came up with a tag name that one point or another.
I mean, I didn't start out writing Gee Whiz. You know, my first tag I think was like, I don't remember. I know I wrote Shape for a little bit, and that was terrible. And I chose Gee Whiz because I just like that expression, Gee Whiz. And people like ask me, they're like, "Oh, does it mean graffiti wizard?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't. It's just it's just Gee Whiz." People have been saying that for years, you know. I just remember like somebody telling me, "You're the first person I've ever met that has that tag Gee Whiz, so you should put Gee Whiz 1," because that was the thing in Philly and in New York when you wrote a tag. If you were the first person to write it, you had to put a 1 next to it. So I put a 1 next to it, and somebody said, "Oh no, there's a guy in New York that writes Gee Whiz already. You can't put a 1 next to it." And I was like, "Yeah, but he doesn't live in Miami, so you know, Gee Whiz 1."
I got my tag back in 1989. This was before I joined Damn Crew. I was writing before that Koki. It was a whack tag, I know, but that's what my tag was. There was this dude, you know, used to hang out with us back in the day. He was an old school graffiti writer, Fo, F-O-E, Fo 4 from AIM Crew, Artist in Motion. Shout out to Fo from AIM Crew. He gave me my tag. We were one day talking, he was like, "Listen, Koki doesn't sound like a dope tag. Like, not for nothing, but no one's gonna respect you in the streets. Why don't you change your tag?" And I'm like, "Okay, to what?" So we were literally here chilling in my mom's house, looking at TV, watching a commercial, and there was this commercial of they looked like, you know, actually I'm wearing Pro-Keds. It was a sneaker, and it was going through the whole city, and it was like, Keds, and he was like, "Yo, that's a dope tag, why don't you write Keds?" And I was like, "Dude, Keds?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, I'm like, maybe just Ked, like remove the S. Ked sounds dope. He's like, "You know what? Yeah, the 3 letters will work. It's simple. It's easy. 3 letters, the K, the E, and the D. You can work those letters, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Ked it is."
I actually used to write Matter, M-A-T-T-E-R, but I hated having to do the double T's all the time, so I ended up changing it to Chase, which was a childhood friend's tag name, and I just kind of took it and ran with it. I've always liked the way it sounded, Chase, and just because graffiti, you know, entails you doing something illegal and you know, hope that you don't get caught and then they're gonna end up chasing you because giving up is not an option.
One of the things I wanted to elaborate on, though, how I got my tag or why I write comics. We all go through trials and tribulations at times. And, you know, I was playing some punk rock. I was hanging out with some crazy people, some fast people. And, you know, I dabbled in my things. And I ended up in a rehabilitation center in the 90s. And I ended up running into a dude who was a real cool cat. going to say his full name, but I'll just say he used to write comics. Okay, he used to be an MTV crew. And, you know, I drew this, I did flyers. He would always tag. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, and I would mimic his shit. And just like a movie one day, this dude comes by in a fucking Ferrari. He's like, I'm out, bro. And I was like, nah, dude, like, what are you talking about, bro? I was like, where are you going? Like, first floor, third floor, whatever the fuck. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm out, bro. I'm going to another facility or some shit. And he goes, you should write that shit. And I'm like, nah, dude. He's like, you should write comics. And I was like, all right. So I started writing COMIK in the 90s.
I am Drip. My character, I just think it's unique. You know, especially me being raised and living in South Florida. Drip originally was the color blue. The first thing that popped in my head was water drip, water drop. I've always been a water guy, love the water. And then after that, it just, you know, evolved and ended up being different colors. Why? Because now drip, it could be a paint drip. It could be an oil drip. It could be anything, dude, guys. It's limitless on what you can actually be.
Identity plays a big role in my everyday life. My identity allows me to be prideful. My identity is a series of trials and tribulations. My identity has taught me more about myself than anyone could even attempt. My identity has put me at risk. My identity doesn't owe anyone an explanation.
The identity that this tag gives me, I don't think it's different from who I am. I mean, you know, it's not like I put on a hoodie and, you know, grab a spray paint can and I'm all of a sudden this like ninja that goes outside and does graffiti.
I think overall, being a graffiti writer, back then, it was secretive. You had to be quiet about it. I couldn't tell people that I'm the one that's painting on the side of the road, the 826 or the Pompetto, because they're gonna come knock on my door and say, let's go, you're getting arrested.
No, graffiti's great, man, but it's one of those things that, like, it's not something you want to go tell everybody. You don't want to tell your mom or your in-laws. And say, oh, dude, I ride on trains, I ride on this, I ride on that. It's not cool. It's not cool, you know?
I want to be somewhat concealed still. You know, I don't want people to know who I am when I'm walking down the street, you know, and maybe it's an attention thing. I don't want that, you know, you know who I am, and I've met you in the past, or I've met you at certain events, and I see you later, trust me, we're going to stop, we're going to say hi, we're going to say what's up.
When I was younger, I might have thought, oh, you know, that's cool, you know, it's like, oh, you're a graffiti superhero, you have a secret identity, you know, whatever, and you hide behind this name, and people only know you by this, you know, this tag, and what they see at night in the dark, what they see, you know, the day after when the light comes, when the sun comes up and you see the tag.
You wanted to keep it quiet. You didn't want people to know who you were, because then it brings attention. And sometimes that attention is the attention you don't want. Wrong attention. From whether it's, you know, 5-0, from other riders, things of that nature, you know what I mean?
The older I've gotten, the less and less I've cared about, you know, people knowing, oh, that's Julius, oh, that's George, or that's whatever, because I don't plan on going and, you know, like, doing an entire, you know, freight train of cars that say G Wiz on them anytime soon.
There was a secret society of graffiti writers that only they knew who you were. Graffiti crews, AIM, Artist in Motion, Bomb, you know, Bombers, you know, of Miami, you know, Can Crew, Crime at Night, you know what I mean? You had all these crews that they had their signification, their meanings of their crew, and either you knew who they were or you didn't.
Yeah, I feel like both the name, the tag, and my real identity are wrapped together now. It doesn't affect me in that sense.
I really don't care that people know who I am now. Back then, yeah, you know what I mean? Now, I don't mind getting in front of a camera and telling you who I am and what I painted illegal for the last 30 years because it's a statute of limitations. You can't do anything to me. I already know that's over with, you know what I mean? And then it's not like I'm out there doing it now.
Paintings on the face of brick, tell the story in the darkest of night. Ready with paint to take on the fight, this street historian leaves a piece of his heart with every spray stroke of his street art. Going out on his nighttime visits to paint his personal city exhibits. He shows the city as no one knows. The festival, the lights, the cultural shows. Through the graffiti, this is his heart.
My first night tagging was probably terrible. I was banged up, I'm sure. Mad Dog 2020, couple rofies. Who knows what else. And probably went bombing with like No and Abel. And we murked up some 17th Ave sloppiness on US 1. And that was like the real year bombing, you know? Before that, I'd written in little pennants and shit, worked on my name, blah, blah, blah. Top of Winn-Dixie and just crazy shit that was like, you know, this day is hidden. But yeah, my first night was intense. You know, it's definitely a miserable drug because you become addicted and then you start scribbling on shit everywhere and you're looking at it.
The first time we started writing, this is before I joined Damn Crew. It was me and my best friend Jeff, which he writes Furious, and this other kid from around the neighborhood, you know, Henry, he wrote a bell, and we started a crew called 30W, which is Three Outstanding Writers. This is in 1986. So in 1986, you know, to be out there, you know, spray painting, you know, we thought we were cool, whatever. Obviously, we weren't any good. But, you know, we went right down the, you know, not too far from my house. There's a canal with a long, you know, pipes that we would cross over because we didn't want to walk all around. So there was a big old block of concrete, and the first painting we ever did was there. We were hanging like this from a bar, from the water, you know, pipes, you know, painting. And that night we literally freaked out because there's, you know, water moccasins, all types of bugs and everything. It was scary. We were super young at nighttime. Cars passing with lights on, and we just kept on going. We said, let's just get it done. We left there all filthy, dirty. Everybody felt accomplished. And in reality, you know, it's like it was nothing. You know what I mean? Monday, we went to school, and we took that yellow school bus, and we drove by, and me and my best friend, Jeff, we went to school together. We looked, and we saw it, and for the first time, I saw my actual artwork graffiti, even though it was horrible, it was whack. But we felt so great about accomplishing that it was just amazing.
There was a study that was conducted by Vasquez and Viritis in 2016 in a journal called Deviant Behavior. It's a criminology journal. They came up with motivations for why these adolescents are engaging in this type of behavior. The most common reason in terms of a motivation for why writers became involved in tagging was many of them would mention things like, I write because I have nothing to do. Or taggers reported that there were no other available recreational activities to participate in their neighborhoods unless they wanted to join a gang. So, you know, these taggers kind of perceived limited options. You know, it was either kind of joining a gang or street tagging that were available in their neighborhood for alleviating boredom. And so, like, when they were weighing these options, the former was deemed more acceptable for a variety of reasons.
There's rules. There's always rules. And in the game, there's always the kind of the number one rule. You can't go over a piece. If you're doing a piece with colors and lettering, I can't go over you with a throw-up.
If you do a marker tag on a wall and somebody comes with a can of spray paint, they can go over your marker tag with a can of spray paint. If somebody does a spray paint tag on a wall over a marker tag, somebody can come and do a throw-up over that tag, which a throw-up is basically, a filled-in letter with an outline on it. That's considered a throw-up or a get-up.
If you got a tag, somebody come and put a throwaway over that, and then if you
to throw in there, you come over back with a piece, dude, but it's got to be bigger and better.
So in other words, peace can go over anything. So if you went and did a little small little whatever, and I'm gonna come and burn the whole thing with cutters, full cutters, characters, and everything. So pieces can go over get-ups. Get-ups are small little letters with barely no color, and get-ups can go over throw-ups.
You let something run for a while, you know, it's not gonna stay there forever, but like you should respect that piece of work that somebody took time to do. And you let it run until, you know, some of the younger kids or boys come and then they write over it and then it's messed up. And then, you know, then you come and you do something over it. It's that respect that graffiti artists have for one another. Like it's letting their artwork run for a while.
And that's always been like one of the things, you know, that's always been like, you know, one of the unspoken, unwritten rules of graffiti. And you still see like all the time, you know, you see a piece and somebody will have done a throw up over it. And that's what leads to, you know, beef, which is when somebody gets angry because their artwork got defaced by more graffiti.
I never believed in crossing other people's shit out anyways. I never crossed nobody's shit out. To this day, I've never crossed nobody's shit out. So people said, oh, you crossed my shit out. Oils. God bless you, that oils. He said, I crossed his shit out. And we ended up fighting twice. You know what I'm saying? Like, over nothing. I'm like, yo, like, but it was more probably just hate shit. Just like, yo, fuck that nigga Chrome. All he thinks he's fucking putting shit up. Fuck that nigga.
How do I feel when people go over me or cover me up? There's two things that go through my mind. And especially if you're a writer. A Miami writer. There's two things that go through my mind, and I'm not a violent person. I'm not a malicious person. I just like to talk it out, maybe see what's cracking, where your head is at. But it's either that you don't know me, you never heard of me, or you don't care.
Some people don't care. They just say, I don't give a shit. I don't care who this guy is. I'm gonna go paint. And you got a problem with me? Okay, cool. You know what? We'll settle it. But there's certain people who that care, who respect the game and say, you know what? I know these guys. These guys have been paying me for 30 years. I'm not going over this stuff. I got respect for them. I know better. And there's dudes that don't know nothing about the game that they're boys.
I don't like that everybody feels that they can just pick up a pen and go fucking write their name over my name and not have to suffer some kind of repercussion. And I'm not talking violent, but at least a fucking stern talking to or a fucking shillelagh whack. I know you don't know what that is, but I went to Ireland and it's fucking to whack somebody with a fucking stick.
If you want to go over me, cover the whole thing up and make it worth it. You know, you come at me with something better.
There's a couple fools out there that are getting it in. I like what you're doing, but you know, you're going over me here and there, and it doesn't look good because you leave it hanging out. And at the end of the day, you know, if I was gonna go over somebody, I'm gonna stomp you, and you know, nobody's gonna see what was underneath of it because I have a little more clout and respect for you and for the game. You know what I mean?
When somebody goes over something that I've done, like a graffiti wall, or I might be working on a project, something that's not even graffiti related, but I'm in an area with a lot of graffiti, so obviously graffiti writers are going to do what they do. And it's almost like I get pissed, but at the same time, I know that these guys are just doing their due, they're painting, they're doing their thing. And they might not even know that there was another graffiti writer that was working on something. They might just be like, hey, I'm catching a tag over this sign guy's artwork, or I'm catching a tag over this street artist's artwork.
I'm putting my name on a wall. I don't care if you see it or if this guy sees it or whatever, but when my friends see it or my kind of genre see it, it gives me purpose to keep pushing forward and do what I do.
The writer earns respect by getting up. And when you start doing graffiti and you start writing, the more you go out and the more tags you catch, the more respect you get. You know, it's kind of like you get more points with the people in your circle, the people who are also graffiti writers. And people are going to watch this and they're going to think that makes no sense at all. But in the mind of a, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, it makes perfect sense. It's their social circle, it's their group, it's their people. They're the ones that give you the respect you want, not the police officers, not the adults. It's the kids. And you go out and you do as many tags as you can, and kids see that on the school bus, on their way to school, and they say, wow, that kid He's going places. It makes no sense to adults, of course, like I said, but that's how you gain respect as a graffiti writer, by catching tags and getting up.
The notion of getting up is what it's called, meaning they want to be recognized, or they want to get up. They want to be recognized, especially by other taggers, right? So getting up means, yes, tagging a lot and having your piece displayed prominently often. And it's also whether or not the piece is of very high quality and it can be visible for many people to see. Getting recognized is usually confined to recognition from other taggers. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
We stayed up all night and watched the sunrise. Painted till the cans ran out beneath those perfect skies. Face lit by cigarettes, we hide behind the smoke. Whispers in the darkness, our secret fears and hope. Alas, we let the sun rise, and the night slipped away. Only our names to stay under the light of day.
Sometimes you might walk down the wrong street or the wrong avenue and you will see that wrong person. And even at 40 years old, you don't know if it's going to be like or we're grown men, like, just fucking paint, and who knows, man.
You're going out in the middle of the night, 2-3 guys, backpack. It's like kind of military, really.
Almost like a natural warfare. You're just playing it minute by minute.
Because you have to have your sketch, which is, your design, your outline, your drawing, your colors, your cans, color coordination. Basically, we're like a platoon. We're like a group of ninjas. We go out at night, we get backpack, we got our paint, we have our outlines, your sketches, and you're going out and you're painting a freight train, the side of a wall, a building, something off of a highway.
The hype of the energy is through the roof. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's around the corner.
I am an adrenaline junkie. I live fast and hard. I laugh at danger and give fears my best regard. I climb up above highways, and when I reach the top, the world beneath me, I spray it.
When I tag, it's the craziest feeling ever. Whether it's a marker tag, grease pen tag, whatever you're doing when you're not supposed to be doing it, it's so rush. It's an endorphin. It's like,
It's kind of like sticking your hand in a cookie jar when your mom tells you not to. Or, like, I don't know, you're at a cop when he walks by, it's like, you're not supposed to be doing this shit. If you get caught, you're gonna get an ass whooping. You still do it.
The adrenaline that you got, being a teenager, being a young adult, it was like, just knowing that what you were doing wasn't 100% legal, that's what made it feel better.
It's kind of unexplainable, when you touch a spray can and you start to paint, you kind of like get into this groove, into this dimension, into this type of vibe.
It's just like, a drug addict going to get his drug, every day, or an alcoholic going to the bar as soon as he wakes up in the morning. Something about just putting colors on a surface, whether it's legal or illegal.
your heart's like, and it's just a great feeling. It's just a really rowdy, no other way to explain it unless you go do that.
You kind of feel like everything is kind of under your thumb, like you're in control, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, sticking into the man. It's this weird sensation of like, almost like you got this power that like nobody else understands except you at that moment.
The rawness of the streetlights, the sirens, the sound of the spray can shaking, that all plays into what graffiti is.
But at the same time, you might be, scared, excited, high, a million other things, but at that moment when you're putting up the tag, it's kind of like, it's just like right there, you feel like you have power over something. The feeling is fleeting, so I think that's why a lot of graffiti writers, like over and over again, you know?
Many of them discuss this rush or excitement that they experience when they're in the process of street tagging. Interestingly, a lot of them reported to the researchers that just talking about tagging made them want to go tag. The excitement was also closely tied to this desire to relieve their boredom, meaning, that it was fun for them. A lot of them mentioned this idea of, loving to tag. They just couldn't get enough of it. It was as if they were addicted to it. And they would explain, tagging is my life. They've been doing it for so long that it was as if it was a part of it.
Do you consider what you see here art or vandalism?
I definitely consider it art. It's interesting you ask me that question because growing up on TV and watching or hearing people's opinion, they say, oh, this is vandalism. But when you really look at it, it's art. And I think it adds so much value to the street. It just adds creativity. It gives you joy, too, just to look at it.
My name is Frank Peñate. I'm a retired detective with the city of Hialeah. I was there for 29 years. The majority of that time, over 25 years, was spent in the detective bureau where I investigated burglary, vandalisms, criminal mischiefs, arson, homicide, and internal affairs. My definition of vandalism is any damage or destruction of a property that doesn't belong to you, it belongs to somebody else. It could be anywhere from basically breaking a window to, graffitiing a wall or tagging up a building.
I mean, graffiti to me, that's like the $1 million question because, it's vandalism, but it's vandalism with an artistic leaning.
I wholeheartedly understand when people say graffiti is vandalism.
Unfortunately, I think graffiti, you kind of have to give the devil his due, like, people are always going to paint big murals and people are always going to tag, people are always going to do throw-ups, it's not going to be one or the other. You can't tell people to stop getting their name, putting their name up because they kind of go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Agencies use different codes to communicate on their radios, very specific to their location. Here in Dade County, we use the Q codes and signals. One of those signals that we attribute to vandalism is the 28. Signal 28 deals with criminal mischief. It can be anything from graffiti to tagging to as simple as breaking a window.
I'm gonna get a little close to the camera there. In Miami, that's a 28. So when you're yeah, that's a 10 code in Miami. And Miami has several 10 codes. 28 is a vandalism. So to me, when I rock something on the street, unannounced or unspoken for, that's a 28. And that's why I rep next to my name, Comic 28. Do I do any of that? Absolutely not. When it's vandalism, I don't discriminate. That's just how it goes, bro. I mean, some people have qualms within themselves of where they'll paint, where they don't paint, but when you see some shit bang around the highway or whatever, oh, dude, that guy painted on a cop car. That's vandalism. Then you have painting or graffiti. That's the way I look at it.
You cannot have graffiti for what it is and not have vandalism in it. Like, then you just be an artist, you'd be a painter. You wouldn't be a graffiti artist, like, without going out there and, vandalizing something.
They might seem harmless, but actually, graffiti and tags do have an effect on society. Not only on society, but they have an effect on property values as well.
You see tags everywhere. There's been studies that if there's a house on the street that has graffiti on it and a broken window, all it does is attract more vandalism and more damage and everything.
There was a thing called back in the day, graffiti task force, or whatever you want to call them, that were out there. And their job is to go out there and find out who you are. And a lot of them, they just kind of want to question you.
Metro Dade police have even formed a graffiti task force. Since July, they've arrested 20 juveniles, taken hundreds of graffiti complaints, and confiscated the tools of the trade.
being able to identify it to an individual, and then we can go back and charge that individual with all those crimes.
The notorious, which I'll show you real quick, the fisherman hat. If you're an old school Miami OG, you know about the fisherman hat. Everybody rocked these back in the days. Whether you were a graffiti writer, a gangbanger, if you wore one of these, even the dope boys. But yeah, this is definitely another part of Miami, graffiti legacy, you know what I mean? That was very, it was part of the culture, you know? Automatically, a cop see you wearing one of those fisherman hats. Hey, come here, let me talk to you for a minute. What gang are you in? What graffiti crew are you in? They would automatically annihilate you. Come here, let's go. I want to talk to you. And that's just the way it was, you know what I'm saying? Because you're putting yourself in that position by the people you hang out with or what you wear.
In my opinion, I think that graffiti is vandalism when it is placed on somebody's property without their permission, and as a result of that, it incurs an expense to that person, thereby, you know, diminishing their property value. And for many people whose businesses are located within these neighborhoods where graffiti is popular, that's quite an expense to them. And so I do think that in those cases it's vandalism, absolutely. However, there are designated areas where graffiti is permitted. I think it's art, and I think that many of these pieces that are put up by these artists are quite inspirational and beautiful, and it takes a lot of talent to do that.
Risks must be taken, because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing may avoid suffering and sorrow, but they cannot learn, feel, change, grow, love, live. Chained by their certitudes. Only a person who risks is truly free.
You know, every time you go out there and you paint graffiti, and you're painting at night illegally, you're putting up the risk of going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people back then that was out there, the 80s, the cocaine cowboys were selling dope. You had gangbangers that were out there fighting, being in shootouts. I grew up in that era too. You know what I mean? My brother was a gangbanger. You know, I grew up with thugs, and I seen shootouts, people get stabbed, all kinds of crazy stuff that now in this day and age, people don't realize that Miami was a big, different city in those times, in that era.
This morning, we want to talk about why Dade County has suddenly become the murder capital of the United States.
You couldn't go to Coconut Grove. You could not go to, Town and Country, Don Carter's, all these places, even Metro Zoo, the Tropical Park. There's a huge documentary on it about the gang fights that happened. It was all over the news, man. There was over, 500 gangbangers from every single gang you could think of out there fighting, you know what I mean? And it was crazy because it was a different era.
In 1989, when we got to South Miami, we made the crew, Damn Crew, and we kind of separated the Damn Crew from the gang.
Nowadays, it's all different. It's cool now. It's changed a lot, which is good. It's safer, to say the least. But back then, man, it wasn't like that, We would go out and paint, and when I would go to these spots with my boys in Eagle, whether it was 7th Street Penne, the Airport Penne, the Baby Penne, which is over here, by the airport, or we were going to, Malibu or Hialeah Penne, these are abandoned buildings, and they had guys that were there with guns, or with a bat, or with a knife, that would rob you for your paint, for your sneakers, whatever. So you would show up over there, you were either strapped or you had your things to take care of you, protect you. And if you didn't, you were gonna have a rough day. So, it's things like that, man, that people don't realize that that doesn't happen today. But back then, we lived through that, you know what I mean? Because that's what the culture was. That's what it was about.
There was this one time where I saw this piece done by Rage on the rooftop. And I remember telling my friend, I want to go get flicks of this piece. So I ended up packing my book bag with a couple of spray things, my sketchbook, my camera. And so me and my friend that didn't do graffiti came with me along for the ride. So we took the Metro L. We got off at the place where we saw the graffiti. And then when we went there, we had to, there was a fence and there was barbed wire on it. And I couldn't really get a good angle from the ground. So I was telling my friend, I came all the way here to get a picture of this thing. And no, I can't get it.
There was a train yard, a freight yard over Park trains. So I went to paint trains. I took 2 boys, friends of mine. They don't write graffiti, but they wanted to go just for the thrill. So I was painting a freight train. I was just about completed, done. Finished painting. I did a cat's piece. It was really cool. It was kind of upsetting that night because I didn't get a picture of it. So it's out there somewhere, but I don't have a photo of it. But I was almost done with the piece, completely, just finished like this. Both of my friends were sitting on the railroad tracks. You know, there's rocks that go up like that. And then I'll never forget, I saw a flashlight from afar. And then I'm like, oh shit, a flashlight, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, from 1 minute to the next, without warning, all I hear was cock and boom.
So as I'm trying to figure out how can I get higher so I can get the rooftop, my friend went into my bag and grabbed one of my spray pens and started fucking tagging around the area. And I didn't notice. I was too busy trying to get the picture of it. Next thing you know, like 3 cop cars shows up and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, am I gonna get arrested for trying to take this picture? And we almost got arrested he almost got arrested. But it's just funny because like that's the first time like cops and my mom ever had to come and get me. And I remember my grandma crying and I'm like, damn, like all this for a picture. And I told my friend like, what are you doing? Like, fuck. Like, I really just wanted to tag something. I'm like, fuck, man. I always think about that. I almost got arrested for doing something that was like not even illegal.
I hit the ground. I heard the first shot. It was from a shotgun. Second time, my boys, I saw them get up and run. They were gone. So I jumped up, tripped over the railroad tracks, busted my ass, hands cracked, my chin all bleeding. Got up, started running, cocked it again, and I hear is boom. Second gunshot from the shotgun. I can hear the shells on the sawgrass, because there's sawgrass everywhere. Bam, bam, you hear the pellets. And I'll never forget that day. My friends too, we talk about it to this day, that night, you know. Probably one of the most scariest nights of my life. I almost died for painting graffiti, which is the most craziest part about it. That was one of the last nights that I was like, you know what, I need to take a chill. At the end of the day, yeah, it is fun, but not worth dying for. It has its, its cool, awesome moments, and then it has this pretty, like, okay, you know what? This is for real. So you kind of gotta like be thankful. I'm super thankful that I made it out that night, because there's people that I know that did it. Some people got shot. Look, there was a kid out in Wynwood a couple of years back. You know what I mean? He got hit by a police car. He was painting graffiti, took off, and an unmarked car hit him. You know, rest in peace, Dems.
My name is Ophir Hernandez, and I'm Israel Riva Hernandez's sister, and I'm here to tell you my story. My brother Riva was caught doing a graffiti on 2013 on Collins and 71st Street in Miami Beach. Police officers called for backup, and 20 other police officers came up. After he was already being arrested and submitted, he got killed. He got tasered to death. We miss him every day. When a graffiti artist goes out in the street, they always know there's different dangers, but another graffiti artist that was killed, that his name was Dance, and it was like 2 months after that, he got crushed by the police. And if you are a soon-to-be graffiti artist, just be careful out there.
New tonight, we're learning more about what led up to a deadly encounter between a Miami police officer and a local graffiti artist. According to a police report released today, early Friday morning, 21-year-old Delbert Rodriguez was in between 2 cars during a police pursuit. He was caught tagging a privately owned building. The report says Rodriguez jumped out in front of a detective's car that struck him.
You have no control over it. It comes with the territory, bro. You're out painting graffiti. Anything can really happen. You know what I mean? It's kind of like what they say is what you signed up for, you know?
I think it's kind of partially acceptance, because you want to be accepted by your peers. You want to be accepted by your crew. You don't want to be called a pussy or a bitch or whatever else. You know, I think it's kind of that. And I think it's also kind of like, you know, you want to see how far you can go.
Every time we paint illegally or no permission, good permission, bad permission, all that, you run the risk of losing your freedom, your family, your friends, your fun time, pleasures, all that good stuff. But I think as I approach this game as an older person, I think I take a more, is the risk worth the reward approach to things.
Just the fact that you know you're going out there and you're doing something illegal, that you can get shot at, get chased by a cop, you can get hurt, you can, so many things you don't know. You just go out and you do it. And then if you make it home unscathed without any marks, that was a good night.
Most teenagers go through a period where they're trying to find themselves, exert their independence, and in some cases, this is pretty normal, challenge the authority of parents, teachers, or other significant others in their lives, right? Some of the rationalization techniques, essentially, these are, sort of thoughts that we have as people in our mind that allow us to do things like, smoke, or to drive fast, or to do things that we know are a bit deviant, while at the same time avoiding harm to our self-image, right? So we neutralize it, or we rationalize it, or we explain it away.
When it may seem that you are standing still, quite the contrary. You are actually transforming every second. Next time you gaze at the clouds, remember, you are moving right along with them.
I think graffiti has evolved in its definition. I think that originally it did start as a vandalism, and I think probably today a lot of people still use it as a way to express themselves, but in an illegal way. But I think it's evolved, and there's people that are doing it now legally, and we call it water, we call it murals, we call it art.
What I enjoy about graffiti today is just seeing how big it's gotten, seeing it everywhere, it's all over Winwood, seeing how many different artists now are sponsored, they travel the world, they're getting paid, just seeing how graffiti has just became so worldwide. Never thought that it would when I was younger.
Now it's a little bit more different, because in this day and era, it's like the Winwoods and all these places now that there's galleries and, people are actually doing graffiti shows. So it's kind of more accepted. There's more people that like it. There's more people that are actually saying, you know what? I like what you did. You know what? Let me talk to you for a minute. Here's my card. Give me a call. I want to hire you to do a job. Can you do something that's not graffiti? Absolutely. I'm an artist. I can paint anything.
It just seems like it's being commercialized in a way, which I don't believe it should be, because everybody back in the 80s was so against it, such as big corporations and everybody else. And now these days you see corporations just using, I've heard in the past, using our style to represent themselves, to advertise for themselves.
A major retailer is stirring controversy yet again. H&M have asked a court this week to declare street graffiti be exempt from copyright law because it's illegal. The ruling would essentially make unsanctioned art fair game for reproduction. Well, that ignited huge backlash from the creative community, prompting H&M to drop the suit. But the scenario is more common than you might think, and it's sparking a conversation about the rights of street artists.
You look at a commercial, you see J-Lo driving a Fiat in the background, boom, graffiti. You know what I mean? Everywhere, rap, guys out there, and they're in front of a wall, and the background is all graffiti. The problem I have with those things, which I don't have a problem with, if you're going to put something on a video, on a magazine cover or anything, the artists sometimes don't mind, sometimes they do. If you don't give credit to the artist that painted that mural, then you're going to receive a letter from his lawyers. So that's how the culture has changed a lot. Because back then, I wouldn't even thought of that. But nowadays, you can.
Once graffiti got on the internet and got all over the world and went social media and everything, now it's like you're in a giant, you're not in a fishbowl anymore. You're in an ocean.
The younger generations that came after me, they have it better in the sense of social media with Facebook, with computers, with internet. You can go online and order tips. You can go online, order a spray paint. You can go online and see what they're doing in Europe or what they're doing in New York.
Back then, I used to travel with my dad. my dad was a truck driver. So my dad was in the truck, and I'm on the side truck with him, passenger. And I had this little old school Kodak wind up, which if you're old school enough, you know what an old school wind up Kodak camera is. So everywhere I would go with my old man, and we travel all over the place, I would be like, Dad, pull over. He would pull over the side of the road, and I would snap a picture of the graffiti pieces that I would see out there.
We used to trade pictures, flicks, we call them. That was part of saving my money to go print pictures and seeing how stuff came out. Versus today, if you have your phone, you can take a picture of something, look at it a few hours later and say, I had to wait a week until I could develop pictures and then see it, and then I would realize oh man, I should have cleaned this up, I should have done that on the picture. I think today with the instant gratification that you get, it's just so much of a bigger rush, you know what I mean? It's a different world that we live in with cell phones, with communication, how things are, you can get things so easily.
When I was younger, it wasn't this whole environment with all these street artists and all these graffiti writers and all this stuff. I consider myself a graffiti artist, but I also consider myself a street artist and a muralist. I've been painting for a long time. I feel like I've done my due, I've done my thing, I've, earned at least some respect in my town, in my city, in my neighborhood, and I can say that, and honestly I can say, look, I do street art, I do murals, I do graffiti.
Street artists, that's the one that people don't realize. There's two different types of graffiti. You're either a street artist or you're a graffiti writer. I'm a graffiti writer. I do like to keep graffiti roots, which is a piece where you're lettering, colors, character. Street artists, we paste, put up, throw splatter of paint. They like to do more artsy, what we call artsy-fartsy. And then you got graffiti writers that don't want to do artsy-fartsy. I'm going to give you the rugged, the real, my piece, my colors, my character. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference, big time.
They're taking a lot of our graffiti styles and putting it into their murals and stuff they're getting paid for, and all this cool empty wall space. Man, this is a touchy subject. I see a lot of artists that you would think that we use paintbrushes and regular paint. They're using spray paint. So, to me, graffiti doesn't have to be about characters and letters. I think graffiti is an expression of just you doing a piece of artwork on a wall or a train. But I think that at this point in the game, it's kind of like rap. Rap started out with the way that it did, and the words evolved to which is real rap or what's real hip hop. You really can't classify it like that, or at least that's how I see it.
A lot of people talk about graffiti artists and street artists and muralists, and they say that street artists aren't real street artists, or just whatever, you're a street artist, go take your street art back to where you're from. Or you hear people say they're not hood, or they're not whatever. It's I don't know why there has to be hate or people talk shit about that.
My name is Claudia La Bianca, and I came from Sicily in the late 90s. I've been an artist all my life. So for me, street art is fucking awesome. It's like a bunch of billboards placed in the city. That's how I see it. I see opportunities. It's a great way to communicate.
I know that there's a kind of a whole disrespect thing going in graffiti artists and street artists. Graffiti artists are these are our streets, or this is our building, or this is our whatever. And they go over street artists because they're this guy flies down here from Helsinki, Finland, with paints for freaking 1 week, and then goes back to, wherever he's from, and I'm gonna go over his shit because he doesn't live here, or I'm gonna go over his shit because I don't care, because I got no respect, because I'm a vandal, because I'm an anarchist.
cops. So if you're if you are from out of town and you have no peace and no respect, you might get tagged. So you want to keep the peace. You don't want to fuck nobody up. You don't want to fucking step on anybody's foot. You know what I'm saying? I think I've built a lot of respect, and I'm really appreciative of that. It's very important to have the respect. Like, my shit doesn't get tagged. Like the graffiti artists. And I respect them too, very, very much. So it's about respecting. But that applies to everything. That applies to humanity, Like, we need to respect, each other, to have a better world,
When I'm driving on the street and I see a piece or, somebody went bombing last night, I got a lot more respect to them because they went to the cover of darkness and got it done. And surprising everybody in that neighborhood the next morning. While the street artist guy went out there, he got permission. I can't hate because I do. These days I've been doing commission pieces too as well, but I haven't taken myself out of the graffiti world 100%. And I probably never will. And the legal guys, the street artists, go out there to get permission. They're out there painting during the day. Everybody's walking by. Hey, what's going on? How's your day going? And they're just having a grand old time when, the real street art scene, graffiti, back in the day was people actually going out on their own, risking their freedom.
The graffiti artists pave the road for the street artists. So I pay respect to all the graffiti artists that risk their life, and still today risk their life for us because we believe in they don't. So, badass.
All these different experiences that people have had and all these different attitudes that people have, that's what makes street art and graffiti art and just art in general great. That everybody comes from a different background, everybody comes from a different experience, and I think graffiti artists or graffiti writers or whatever you want to call them, sometimes they kind of they act like they're gatekeepers and they act like they can say you don't know anything, or you're too young to understand, or you're too this to understand, or whatever. And I feel like that's just a really fucked up way of looking at things. You have to take the good with the bad, but you also have to respect the good and respect the bad and not talk shit just to open your mouth.
Street art is a movement right now, the whole culture it's great because it's evolving, and it's not just the painting, it's installations, it's people performing, into the street art culture. It's so big, it's so great, it's a great fucking movement, and I'm, right there.
As older adolescents start to grow into early adulthood, it becomes less about the sort of boredom and the adrenaline rush and that risk-taking behavior, and more about becoming recognized for their style, gaining acceptance from other people, gaining acceptance from the crew, maybe most likely that they're part of, and gaining a reputation. So as the writer, as this tagger writer moves into adulthood, this type of behavior moves away from risk-taking and more toward this kind of compulsive need for respect from their community.
I want to be admired for my dedication to my buddies, dedication to my family, my life, my mom, my sister, my niece, my brother-in-law, close family, friends, that's what I'd like to be remembered for. Art's secondary, family first. Whether it's music or art, I'm always kind of creating. So yeah, hey, he was a creative guy. That'd be a nice thing if they could say something about a dead guy. I'm not dying. It's just all weird shit.
For my work, for what I can do, for my creativeness, to say that, oh yeah, I remember when he was doing this, and now look at him. Like I said, I want to bring everything that I've learned to this point in my life and do something that can show, oh shit, I like that one. This is dope to see how he got there. It's definitely been a journey.
I hope that somewhere down the line I'm artist, for people liking my pieces. As long as people remember me as a good person, you know, hey, I'm good with that.
I'm mainly leaving my name, or want to leave my name on this world, you know, for my daughter, you know, to leave her something special, leave her some history. That's probably my number one thing.
Being a part of, I guess you could call it like the second wave of graffiti, you know, historically, I'd say, like, you know, you had the first wave of graffiti writers in, you know, Philly and New York, and then you had the second wave, which was the cities that became like kind of like, you know, these like subsets of these places where it was born. And I guess I'd like to be considered like one of those, you know, artists that contributed in some way. Not so much for like one individual thing. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh look, I painted the Sistine Chapel of graffiti in this abandoned building. Like, but I want to be remembered as like a part of it, because I feel like so many people have given parts of themselves to, you know, this, I guess, art movement.